The stars of NASCAR's Busch Series, led by Kyle Busch and young Martin Truex, as the Busch Series make their way back to Dover's Monster Mile for the first of 2 stops in 2004. Today, it's Busch Pool qualifying live from the Dover International Speedway for Saturday's MBNA 200. Weather is in the area and a concern. Let's begin our live speed coverage on pit road with the editor of Speedway Illustrated, Dr. Dick Bergman.
Thanks, Matty. Qualifying is always a fun thing to watch, fun thing for us down here on pit road to participate in. But I think today's qualifying show is going to be even more fun than usual for a lot of reasons. First, most importantly, 6 drivers broke the track record in practice today, and they're liable to go faster even in qualifying than they ran in practice. So the records are liable to fall. Those 6 drivers are mixed all the way through this deep field, so we're not going to know who's going to win the pole until we get all the way to the very tail end of qualifying, because one of the very best, Joe Nemechek, is next to last. And oh yeah, we've got a lot of hot drivers. For example, the guy that drives this car is Matt Kenseth. He's here.
Well, hello everyone, I'm Matt Yoakum along with Jeff Hammond and Larry McReynolds. A big day, a big triple header day here on Speed. We started out with Busch Pole qualifying for the NASCAR Busch Series, and Jeff Hammond, Kyle Busch, one of 6 drivers to break the existing track record in practice. It could be a big, another track record day like we've seen already this year.
Matt, I think you're right when you say that. And in fact, it's funny thing about it is when I talked to Kyle Busch earlier this morning, he told me actually this track intimidates him. Can you imagine? Kid's won 2 races this year, and every time you go to a fast racetrack, he seems like he's a guy you got to beat. But he told me when you come to Dover, it's such a roller coaster ride, and you've got to hit your marks. The place is so fast, you make any kind of mistake, and the next thing you know, the Monster Mile will definitely take a bite out of you. But hey, he has figured it out. He is definitely fast already in practice.
Now, this is our 3rd stop this year at a concrete racetrack. And Larry Mack, a lot of people say, Dover, it's a lot like Bristol. It's a big Bristol. But this is a racetrack all to itself.
Yeah, what makes it similar to Bristol, when these guys go out to qualify, they have to hold their breath twice as long because this is a 1-mile racetrack. And these guys are qualifying, Trim, almost 160 miles per hour. But the thing I like about our qualifying session, I think the way the weather is, concrete's not that susceptible to condition changes. So I think everybody's on equal turf right here. I don't think anybody has an advantage. And like Dick Bergman said, I think the track record, it's inevitable. It's going to be broken probably by several drivers.
The big question, who will it be? 44 drivers are set to roll off and take time here at Dover. Will it be the guy that won from the pole last year, Joe Nemechek, or somebody else? We'll find out. Stay tuned. Speed Channel's coverage of the NASCAR Busch Series qualifying live from the Dover International Speedway is brought to you by John Deere. Nothing runs like a deer. And there is your new point leader, Kyle Busch, back on top of the point standings. And a big shuffle last week as the top 6 drivers either moved up or down. And look at Martin Truex Jr. You know, I talked to his dad at Daytona, and he felt like that, you know, little Martin and Kyle Busch are going to be 2 guys that are really going to make a big charge in that points and going to surprise a lot of people, and they sure did.
What's interesting about these 2 young guys being at the top of the point list like this is you think about Kyle Busch driving the car that won the championship a year ago, and we talk about Martin Truex driving for a team that has won a couple of Busch championships. So we got 2 veteran teams with young drivers battling it out.
And the way Kyle Busch and Martin Truex are going, these guys have really started to pull away a little bit from 3rd place in points, which is now Michael Waltrip. They've opened up a 155-point lead from 1st to 3rd. And let's go down to pit road for more with Dr. Dick Bergman.
With Bobby Hamilton Jr., who is always good here at Dover International Speedway. How intense is qualifying here?
It's really it's mind-boggling because the thing is so fast. We had practice probably, I think, 2 hours ago, and the guys have put a lot more rubber down, so there's a lot of questions. And also going out first, it doesn't really settle the mind a lot. But the clouds has really poured in, so. But this morning the car was super fast and race trim. We taped it up, went out. I didn't get a really clean lap, so we're going to try to at least be in the top 5. Pit road is so tight. There's all kind of variables here at this place, so we got to. The weekend starts off on the right foot if you get a decent qualifying run.
Hold your breath for 2 laps. Good luck with it. Thank you.
Larry Mack, you continue to see the clouds getting ever closer to the racetrack. How is that going to affect the teams as they prepare for qualifying?
Well, as long as it don't rain, I think it's going to make the speeds even quicker. But we were talking about the uniqueness of this racetrack and what makes it so unique. A lot of the racetracks we go to, we talk about driving into the corner. Here at Dover, you drive down in the corner. It's like going down a hill like a roller coaster. Then you'll run right around the bottom of this racetrack. These guys will be picking the throttle up way back here, well before the center of the corner. A lot of the racetracks we go to, we talk about driving off the corner. Here at Dover, you drove up off the corner. You pulling up a hill, and that's what makes this place so unique. By the time you pick the throttle up, when you get to the exit of the corner, I mean, you're carrying so much speed, you're almost defying the law of physics. I mean, it's the racetrack wasn't designed for the speeds that these guys are trying to run here.
And when bad things happen here, they happen quick, and it starts at the top and it comes down to the bottom.
Self-cleaning track.
When we return, the first of 44 cars set to roll off here at Dover. Two drivers pulling double duty this weekend, Michael Waltrip and Jimmy McMurray, looking over practice speeds here at Dover.
Watching these pictures, we see what I consider the next tail guys that are racing here in the Busch Series. And I was going to make a comment, Larry, that they just finished their practice session. So somebody like a Matt Kenseth, Michael Waltrip, Jamie McMurray, all these drivers can go back and say, hey guys, the racetrack is doing this. I can make a little air pressure adjustment, maybe make our car a little bit better. A little bit of an unfair advantage, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, but also working with drivers that pulled the double duty, in particular Davey Allison back in the early 90s. And I think about this place right here. I think about Rockingham. I think about Darlington. I'd always go to him and say, remember, this is the Busch car. This is the Cup car. That 80 to 90 horsepower difference between the two can make a difference in the way you drive a race car around here.
It's a big challenge, but a lot of these guys have been up to it so far.
9 drivers pulling double duty, both Busch and Nextel Cup. Is our first driver on the racetrack for qualifying today, Paul Menard.
You know, Paul's been having a pretty solid season driving for Andy Petrie, running for Rebecca's Rookie of the Year, but the problem is when you're up against a guy like Kyle Busch, it don't make your season seem like it's too good.
Now, you can finish 5th or 6th, but when he's winning, it kind of like everybody's looking at the guys in victory lane and not you having a pretty good season.
How tough to come into a racetrack like Dover, maybe compared to a California, a Michigan, and try to log some laps, keep yourself out of trouble, and just learn? Very
difficult, because this racetrack, the way it takes rubber, you need a lot of cars to get a groove kind of worked in like you need. Compound that with the fact that you drive it off in the corners. Larry's talking about earlier. This is one of the very few tracks you can say drive it. You can just about drive it as far as you can hold your breath.
Till your voice changes.
Exactly. So it's one of those tracks that kind of defeats and changes all the approaches you like to as he gets up out of the groove just a little bit down there in 3 and 4. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of lap Paul puts down. But it's a challenge for a rookie and for a lot of veterans too.
23.526 seconds on his first lap. And a little bit slower on the second.
And I think that was that bobble down there in 3 and 4 you talked about.
Got to stay on the bottom when you're trying to qualify here.
Let's go down to pit road and Dick Berggren.
Well, 10 years ago here at Dover, Mike Wallace was a young 35 years old, and when the race ended, the Busch Series race ended, this is the guy that drove home with the trophy in his arms, his first ever Busch win. How big a deal was that for you that day?
Oh, it was, as they call it, the Monster Mile. It was a monumental win for me. It was my first Busch victory, and I believe lined up behind me was Terry Labonte, Mark Martin, and Jimmy Spencer. So it was a big win, and just real excited always to come to Dover.
And he's got himself a Nextel Cup car ride this weekend, also a Busch Series ride, so we wish you well. May you bring home another trophy this weekend.
Well, I hope we get a 10-year anniversary, maybe bring home a Busch win and a Cup win, and thank Don Arnold and Mike Hillman for the chance to get in the 50 car over in the Cup side. We're having fun.
Have a good weekend. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
28-year-old Michigan native Andy Ponstein's already taken the green flag. 5 ARCA races in 2003. Scored 3 top 10s, just trying to log some laps and miles in Busch, and just like a lot of other guys, gain more experience and improve each week.
And Andy's one of these cars, he really needs to try to get up in the wheel and get a good lap there, because he was 41st in practice. And that's going to put him kind of close as far as being able to get in on speed. You never know what's going to happen as far as provision. Again, he bobbles right there in the middle of 3 and 4, goes up the racetrack, And here at Dover, if you're not back in the gas, Larry, you're losing time.
Well, like you talked about it, Jeff, in the opening, it's such a hit-your-mark, line-sensitive racetrack. You're carrying so much speed, you miss your mark by about a third of a car width, it'll shoot the car up the racetrack, it'll get looser, it'll start to push.
And a lot of guys have already told me that when you get up out of the groove, there's not enough rubber upstairs yet to be able to hook the car up and be able to drive off under power. So everybody who misses a mark is going to pay the price today.
Right now, it appears the racetrack's in pretty good shape because Paul Menard and Andy Ponstein both ran quicker than they ran in practice. We have 44 cars here. That means you have to beat 6 cars to guarantee yourself to be in the top 38.
And it just seems like when you look at Matt Kenseth's stats, second among all active drivers, 2 wins, 6 top 5s, and he's led 628 laps here. It just seems like Matt Kenseth, when you go back to 1998 when Bill Elliott's father died and he jumped in that Nextel Cup car, and he's just taken to this racetrack ever since.
I think that day he was able to get in a car that the guys who worked on it gave him a really good feel of what it needs to feel like to be fast here, and Matt never forgot it.
And his only career Bud Pole and Nextel Cup came here 2 years ago.
Well, his first lap, 23.223 seconds, 155 and change miles per hour.
About exactly where he practiced. He was actually 21st quickest in practice.
Just notice, excuse me, Matt, I just noticed when he goes in the corners, you see that spark coming out, the car's bobbing out a little bit, and that could be hurting him as far as, again, being able to be real aggressive. The car's hitting the racetrack, that could be a big distraction.
I was going to say, the biggest thing it would be at these speeds would be a distraction.
Had a great run going here last year, and then on a restart missed a shift, and then was hit in the back by Brian Vickers.
Kind of ended his day then as far as that's concerned, but you can always believe that Matt Kenseth, this number 17 car, they will be a factor before tomorrow's done.
As the 17 of Kenseth pulls in, the 14 of Casey Atwood pulls out onto the racetrack. 2-time series winner, both Milwaukee and here at Dover, 1998.
It's been a racetrack that he's always ran awfully good at. I think he had a Busch pole here once before. He was 24th quickest in practice. This is their Bristol car. Not raced it since then.
I talked to his teammate Tim Fidoa a few races ago, and he says, yeah, I just feel like our entire program is starting to come together. It's taken a little longer than we would have liked, but it's starting to come together. And if you look at Casey, in the last 4 Busch Series races, he's qualified in the top 10 3 times.
They've definitely made a big turnaround. He's second quickest right now, but I also understood after talking to Armando Fitz, who's one of the owners of this team, that the other owner, Terry Bradshaw, has had a little bit of influence. I think they've made a couple of trips down to their shop there in the Mooresville area and kind of lit a fire to these guys. Said, hey, boys, we need to get it done. We need to get up here and be a contender every week. And they've definitely picked up the pace this year.
I heard his pep talks are legendary.
I can only imagine. He runs just a tick quicker on the second lap, 23.46, but that's about a 1/10.5 slower than he ran in practice. He's really the first car that has slowed down from what they practiced.
Next up, you saw him earlier, Michael Waltrip in the Dream Machine.
Anybody look and make sure that Michael was in that car? Because last time I heard, Darrell was lurking in the area. You never know when he's going to sneak in that Dream Machine. He's been trying to drive it every time he gets an opportunity. He tries to jump behind the wheel and go cut around.
Michael was 26th quickest in practice earlier.
3 guys chasing Todd Bodine's 3-win mark here at Dover. Michael has 2, Robert Presley and Matt Kenseth all with 2 wins.
This is the same car that they're running here that Shane Neal qualified 3rd a couple of weeks ago up at Nazareth, and then Michael jumped in it, no practice, on Sunday and had a top 10 finish.
I walked by that car this morning. If you go by Michael's Nextel Cup car or his Busch car, you can always look inside and see, as Michael turns in a lap of 23.68 seconds, you can always see artwork by his daughter Macy. Good luck charms, you name it. She is a great little artist, and on the pad in the center of the steering wheel said, I love you, Daddy. What better way to get into a race car?
She definitely loves her daddy.
Cute, cute little girl.
Jeff Michael slowed down quite a bit from practice. Let's see if he picks it up on his second lap. Picks it up a little bit, but he's going to stay 4th quickest out of 5 cars. I don't think he'll be very happy today.
No, and Larry, you and I both kind of looked at the weather and we thought maybe this would be good for speed, but I'm wondering if by cooling off a little bit, if some of these guys are missing it and the car's a little bit too tight, it won't really run through the center of the corner as fast as they need to. So I wonder if we can maybe find out what the real story is.
Matt Kansas Ford still leads the way, and let's check in with Dick.
Well, Matt wasn't terribly happy with his car, however. He called into the crew and was looking for some more horsepower. Anything you can do to get more ponies under the hood of this thing for tomorrow's race?
I hope so. It runs like the town car that I rented this week, but we got a one-a-day carb start handling good. We did almost all race runs today, and just the motor just hasn't run, and we haven't been able to figure out why. It just surges and doesn't have any acceleration, doesn't have any power, and we haven't been able to fix it. So I sure hope it's better for tomorrow. It's gonna be a long day.
Has the track changed since practice, Matt?
It always changes here a little bit, during the day on Friday. It's not such a dramatic change on Friday when they have the trunks here on Thursday, but it still changes a little bit.
Listen, I'm rented a Ford Taurus, and if you want the motor and it's pretty stout, you're welcome to borrow it if you don't tell anybody from Hertz, okay?
All right, don't give me any more trouble. I'm probably already in.
Well, the 2003 NASCAR Dodge Weekly Racing Series champion Mark McFarland's on the racetrack. Turns in the 5th fastest time with 23.84 seconds. We'll see if he can pick it up on the second lap.
He was 33rd quickest in practice. This is a car owned by Tommy Baldwin, and he picks it up, but he don't pick up any position. This is part of that Hungry Drivers program. Paul Wolf running a few races, Tracy Hines, and now Mark McFarland running a couple of races.
But at least, excuse me, Matt, at least in Mark's situation, he did pick up over what he practiced at earlier, so that's a plus. Anytime you can pick up on a qualifying run, that's the kind of confidence builder you're looking for.
And Jamie McMurray, what a year he's had. Rockingham wins the last Busch Series race at Rockingham.
He's just awesome when he jumps inside this Busch car. I mean, he goes out, and every time he gets in behind the wheel of this Miccosukee Dodge, he seems like he puts out a valiant effort. He's leading the race, or he's nipping at the leader's heels. So I know he loves driving these Busch cars.
Yeah, I mean, he's started 3 Busch races. He drove a bronze car earlier in the year at Rockingham, won that race. Then it was several weeks before he did race again. In his first race back in the Finch car, he was leading Richmond and had a flat tire, and then he finished 2nd at Lowe's last week, and he had a birthday yesterday.
And I asked him, I said, how long are you going to run this one for? He goes, well, until James tells me I have to get out of here.
Well, I talked to Jamie at Daytona, and I think he was kind of excited, and he's 2nd quickest on that first lap. He was pretty excited back at Daytona about maybe having some time off on Saturdays. But I think after about 4 weeks of sitting in the motor coach watching the Busch races, he was pretty excited when James called him.
It went from being cool to not so cool, as he'd say.
And runs almost an identical time. First lap, 23.263 seconds. Second lap, 23.264.
1/1000th of a second between 2 laps. That's pretty remarkable.
Let's go to Dick.
Well, Michael Waltrip has just finished his run. He is one of several Cup drivers who are also trying to win the Busch Series championship. But in the last 2 weeks, Michael, 2 have dropped out. Robbie Gordon, Casey Kane. Are you going to stick with it and try to win this championship?
I don't know. Our performance isn't where we need it to be. Our cars just simply aren't running like we did a year ago, and that's frustrating for our team to try to get our arms around why that is. So I'm real proud of all the boys that work on the Aaron's Dream Machine, but it's just not running right. So we either got to pick up the performance, or we too will bail like the others before us have.
Of course, there was some concern about his Cup performance too until last week when he turned in such a terrific run, finishing 2nd at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
And Dick, what Jerry Baxter, Michael's Busch crew chief, told me early this morning, they're definitely going to run Nashville next week. They're definitely going to run Kentucky. I think the question is Milwaukee when the Cup car's in Sonoma. But as Michael says, I think these next couple of weeks are going to depend on that.
Talking about something that depends on, look at Hermie Sadler here in the unsponsored 02 car. Picks up almost 3/10
Currently 3rd.
over what he practiced at. He's 3rd fastest right now. It's really an awesome run by Hermie Sadler. He was my chauffeur yesterday during the Artie Kittner's Autism Golf Tournament up in Wilmington. He came down and picked me up and rode up there and turned together. And he was really excited about this car. They've really worked hard to try to get this program turned around. He also told me something, Larry, I didn't realize. This is the first week this team that they've had a backup car on the truck ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing so much, but besides trying to run all the races, they've actually changed locations of their shop. They moved from Virginia to North Carolina.
And Bobby Hamilton Jr. This weekend marks the 1-year anniversary of Harold Holley coming on board this race team. It sure showed on a great roll right now. 4 top 10 finishes his last 5 races, but 4 wins he and Harold have notched together.
He finished in the top 10 both races here last year. Never will forget back in 2001, the before he had won a Busch Series race. He was on the brink of winning that first when he got spun out late in the race. And him and his dad, Bobby Seeger, is going to be on our trackside show tonight.
Father and son combination. It'd be interesting to see what they have to say about one another.
Especially after the truck race.
Exactly.
Bobby's on the pole, 22.88. And that is a new track record.
They have definitely found some speed in that Team Marines car. They practice it like right at 23 flat. So again, he's in all these cars. They found a couple of tenths.
Race it by about a tenth. The big question, will it stand? A little slower on his second lap. Bobby Hamilton Jr. shows the way with a new track record as Busch Series qualifying continues here at Dover. And the 31 car, the Wheelan car with Todd Bodine behind the wheel on the racetrack. Kyle Busch strapping in, the fastest man during practice today. And while we were away, Mike Bliss turned in the second fastest time.
This is a car that's been driven by Dave Blaney. This team just runs a limited schedule. They made a change this week and they put Todd Bodine in it. They plan on running 6 more additional races, not including this weekend. And Todd got his very first career Busch Series win here back in 1991. I never will forget it. Davey Allison was leading the race. Late in the race, the caution came out. We talked about how much banking this place has. He ran out of fuel because under caution, all the fuel ran away from the pickup, and Todd won the race.
And he won 2 more after that. Todd Bodine, 5th fastest on his first lap.
Good lap for Todd at first lap. Better in his practice speed by almost 2.5 tenths, so pretty happy with it, I'm sure, especially when you're working with a new team. A lot of times it's very difficult to start communicating right off the bat. It seems like they were pretty much on the same page early on.
And the guy who set the early mark of 22.88 seconds is standing by with Dick Bergman.
And on the weekend of the anniversary of D-Day, Bobby Hamilton Jr. has driven the Team Marines car to the fastest time so far. Tell us about your association with the Marines.
I'll tell you, it's an amazing program. You know, it's one thing to have your name tied in with the biggest organization in the world, and they keep us safe all over the world, I mean, all that stuff. But the big thing you see here is the fans. I mean, there's so many sponsorships in this crowd here. They couldn't tell you what it is, but they see that emblem and they know it's, you know, courage on the whole thing. They know everything about the Marines, and to have my name sitting right there next to that American flag right there, and also give them being great race cars, have a chance to win races, get the guys a ton of TV time for them over there that can cheer us on over wherever they're battling, keeping us safe. That's what we guys want.
Thanks, Ron.
Greg Biffle on the racetrack, just a tick off of Bobby's time, currently second. Let's see if he picks it up on his second lap.
It's quite a pickup, though, for practice. He was 19th quickest. That right there would have broke the old track record as well. It's about a 10th slower than Bobby Hamilton Jr. Picks it up, loses the pole by 1/1000th of a second.
What you call cutting it close.
That is close. Greg Biffle not going to get his 3rd pole this season yet. Bobby Hamilton Jr. showing the early way in Busch pole qualifying, trying to knock down his first pole this season. Best start with a 2nd at Las Vegas. And the 23 car on the racetrack, Larry Mack, Kenny Wallace.
While we were away, Robert Presley in the 47 car, good qualifying run for Robert, qualified 4th. You know, Kenny Wallace in this 23 group, this is a group that started off with a rocky start. They have really been coming on lately. They moved in the top 10 in points, had a good run at Lowe's last week, finished 9th. Starting to come around here. Good run.
Chris Rice told me felt like it took them about a month and a half after what happened at Rockingham to get themselves back on track.
Yeah, of course, they missed the race at Rockingham. His first lap's 23:10, 4th quickest. Had the quickest car in practice that day, and some of the quick disconnects that cools the radiator down were leaking. Kenny ended up having to start the race in someone else's car and ended up with a top 20 finish, and he slows down just a little bit on lap 2.
And that team, they've really started to get that momentum back. In the last 6 races, they've climbed from 18th to 10th in the championship point standings.
Plus the fact that you think about coming up here, this monster Stacker 2 is right up the road here in New Jersey. And Kenny yesterday was really kind of pumped up about being here at Dover because he's got a lot of those folks coming in. Feels like they're right on the verge of getting to victory lane. And I believe Dick Berggren has got some more information down the pits. Dick, what's going on?
Well, I'm with Greg Biffle, who won here a couple of years ago, never won the pole here at Dover in this series. But how close can you come? 1/1000th of a second. Was there anything either you or your crew might have done differently to get you that edge?
Yeah, maybe me a little bit. You know, I wanted to tighten the car up just a little bit because I felt it was a little bit free in the Nextel Cup car, and just had to come off the gas a little tiny bit. You know.
Wait a minute, you came off the gas?
Yeah, it was a little bit tight, so I didn't want to get up in that black qualifying, and you know, maybe that was that 1,000th of a second.
Kyle Busch is on the racetrack. He's going to try to beat you. Let's see if he does it.
The fastest man in practice. His first lap. Third quick.
Yeah, let's see. He's going to have to pick up about 1/10 and a half because he ran below the track record, as we talked about in the opening, at a 22.82. That's a 23.02, so he's 2/10 off of what he practiced. He's working on this. If he can sit on the front row here, it would be his 4th consecutive front row start. See what he does here. 23.05. He will be very disappointed. He will not start on the front row tomorrow.
But Larry, we talked about how the track had changed. This is another indication how this track does do.
I'd say that's a good indication.
Pair of Fords on the front row. A big weekend of racing across the Fox family of networks. Saturday, 12:30 Eastern, the NASCAR Busch Series MBNA 200. And Bobby Hamilton Jr. hopes to knock down his 3rd career pole.
Guys, here's a pretty interesting story. Kevin LePage, driving the 72 car, spoke with Kevin this morning, asked him how his ride was. Jeff is pretty good, but you got to realize I crashed our good car last week in Charlotte. This car's not quite as good. We don't have a backup. So I've got to be a little bit careful out here today. If you get it to show, I believe we'll race okay. But he's one of these guys, that he's out here because he loves to race, but he's also in a situation that's not quite up to his standards and his liking.
First lap 24.15. That's a little quicker than he practiced, but it's only going to be good enough for 16th quickest out of 17 cars. See what he does on the second lap. He picks it up, but it does not pick him up any positions. 24.03, 16th quickest for Kevin.
And Bobby Hamilton Jr., Greg Biffle, Tony Raines, Kyle Busch, and Mike Bliss, your Fast Five here in Dover. Our full weekend of racing action continues. Next on Speed, Buckpole qualifying for the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series, followed by the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, MBNA America 200 here on Speed. Just lock it down. Then tomorrow, the MBNA America 200 Busch Series race, followed by the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series final practice. Then Sunday, 400 miles here at Dover, followed by the NASCAR Speed News edition, NASCAR Victory Lane at 8 p.m. Eastern. And let's document while we were away, Tony Raines jumped in with the 3rd fastest time. And the 12 car finishes up his lap. Tim Fedewa jumps up to 8th fastest. And let's go down to Dr. Dick, who's with the Shrub.
With 4 poles so far this year, Matty, and given that he turned the fastest lap in practice, most everybody in the garage figured Kyle Busch was going to win the pole today. What happened?
We had 2 terrible laps. I don't really know, but car was tight. We really didn't adjust, I guess, enough for the rubber that was laid down by the Cup cars, but awesome job by the whole Team Loves Racing team, and, you know, got shot back this week, so look forward to the race. It's somewhere up front, not where we were last year, which was a bad thing, so hopefully we have a good day.
What'd you do to celebrate last week after the big win at Lowe's?
Well, basically, we couldn't do much. I had to go to bed early because I had to get up for the 600 the next day. But nonetheless, the guys and everybody, the whole Lowe's racing team, we all had a lunch on Tuesday with the CEO from Lowe's that came over, Mr. Bob Tillman. So had a great time that day, and of course, was able to spend it with the whole team and the whole 24-48 team as well, too.
So the exciting life of a big-time race driver. Go to bed early, then have lunch with the boss a couple of days later. Congratulations. It was a great win last weekend.
And, Dick, he will be driving for the team that won this race in September with Brian Vickers behind the wheel.
And I understand Bob Tillman, CEO, 41 years at Lowe's, retiring at the end of the year. Every time they win a race, the 4, 8, or the 5, he takes the entire organization out to lunch.
If I'd had the weekend like they had last weekend at Lowe's Motor Speedway, I'd take them out to lunch and retire too.
Guys, watching Stacy Compton right there as he's finishing up his qualifying run. The car looked like it was really just not up underneath him at all. The car doing a lot of dancing around inside there. You can see Stacy working the wheel, trying to stay up on top of it. Didn't have quite the lap I think these guys were looking.
Just trying to bounce back from last week at Lowe's. They had engine trouble, had an engine fire. He just didn't have the weekend that they were on. Just trying to get some momentum.
Yeah, even though he picked up quite a bit from practice, again, he's 17th out of 20 cars.
The car just really didn't look very good at all, but here's a guy who's been kind of surprising everybody today. Justin Labonte, Terry Labonte's son, been quick. He was 4th fastest in practice, and it's good to see this guy right here coming out of Charlotte. Had a strong run at Charlotte, running this good here at Dover.
I got tickled talking to him in the garage this morning. You know, he's running a limited schedule, 15 races. Brand new race car. They tested up here, and I said, Justin, have you ever been here before the test? He said, well, I've never raced here, but I've hung out here for a number of years. Of course, his daddy, Terry, has 50 starts here.
I walked to the Cup garage while Busch practice was still going on. I looked up and I saw Terry with a headset on his hauler, and I gave him the thumbs up. He gave me a big thumbs up and a big smile. Knocks down the 3rd fastest time.
I bet he's hanging through the fence giving Justin the thumbs up right now. Of course, Justin was 4th quickest in practice.
I was going to say, and if I'm the crew chief, I think I want to get on the radio and say, you're third, back it down.
That'll be just fine.
And then I saw Uncle Bobby. I said, how about the nephew? He goes, I walked down there, saw where they were on the board, turned around, walked right back to the Cup garage. A great lap by Justin Labonte. Turns in the 3rd fastest time. So far, who's going to knock Bobby Hamilton off the pole? We're waiting to find out. Back in Dover, and how big was that qualifying effort by young Justin Labonte? Former series champion David Green walked over and gave him an attaboy.
David won his championship, I think, driving a 44 car in this series.
For the Labontes.
David Stremmy's on the racetrack, and I talked to David this morning. He said, you know the one thing, a little bobble there. He said to me, you know, Atlanta and Dover, 2 racetracks that really give you the big sensation of how fast you're really going.
When you go off into turn 1 here, now I'm speaking about experience I've had running a Cup car around here many times with Darrell Walton test. When you go off in turn 1, the way it gives you that roller coaster ride feel, you can imagine what a driver feels like at over 155, 60 miles an hour, trying to hold that throttle down and realizing I've got to drive it to the bottom, guys, if I want to be fast.
Pretty solid run for David on that first lap. He'll be 7th quickest at a 23.04. That's almost exactly what he ran in practice.
Again, Larry, just watching this race car, it's got that little wiggle about it. It's just kind of moving all around. It's never looking like it's steady around that bottom, that white line. He's really having to work the wheel a lot.
Up on top of the racetrack.
Top of the racetrack, not down in it.
Stremmy's 2nd lap about a 10th slower than his 1st lap, and let's go down to pit road and talk to young Labonte with Dick Berger.
On a weekend when we celebrate our military, we have the Marines car on the front row on the pole, and Justin Labonte has qualified the Coast Guard car, 3rd so far. Big run for you today.
Yeah, it was a good run for us. We had a good car off the truck in practice, and I left a little bit out there in qualifying, but we don't have any points, so we got to get in the race first. And we're really looking forward to the race. The Coast Guard's a great sponsor, and they stand behind us even when we're not running good. So to come out here and have a good qualifying effort for them, we're really excited.
We wish you all the best. Your whole family is behind you. It's so neat. I talked to your mom today, and she's all wound up. Your dad on top of the truck. Everybody's cheering you on.
Yeah, it's great. I love this track. It's the first time I've ever been here, but it's a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to it.
And his family all care about him, let me tell you.
And another guy who loves this racetrack, Mike Wallace, scored his first of 3 NASCAR Busch Series wins right here on the Monster Mile.
17th quickest on that first lap at a 23.57. He was 28th quickest in practice. He's actually slowed down about a 10th from practice. And you heard Dick Berger talking earlier. See him bottoming out just a little bit right there, and it shoots it up the racetrack. Has a Nextel Cup ride for the weekend. The 50 car that's been driven by Derek Cope all year.
Larry, we keep using the terminology about being in the racetrack as Mike Wallace completes his 2nd lap, stage 17th. It slows down just a little bit. But you see with Mike Wallace's car, it's bouncing off the racetrack. That means the front tires are probably, and the rear tires are not really getting the grip they need, because the body itself, or the chassis one, is hitting the racetrack. And we keep talking about getting grip. That's what it's all about. When the car is down the racetrack, all 4 tires are getting some grip, making it go faster, making the car feel really good to the driver.
And that's normally a product of the shock package. I bet you if you took a pole through the garage area, almost everyone's running the same springs. It's a shock package makes the difference.
Well, the top 2 drivers in points, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex. What a year they have had. Busch 2 wins, Truex 4 wins. especially this is his home racetrack. He's from New Jersey, about 2 hours away, so you know he'd love to get another win here.
He was 5th quickest in practice, right at the old track record of 22.96. Let's see what Mark can do.
3 poles this year.
lap.
Let's see if he can make it number 4.
22.92, 3rd quickest.
Got a 10th off fast time. Let's see if he can pick it up on that second lap.
You can see when that right there, you saw when Martin Truex came up off turn 2, the car just kind of lunges up against the wall. Carrying so much speed right there. These guys, they went into Lowe's Motor Speedway with a points lead. Didn't have the greatest weekend there. Now they're 38 points behind Kyle Busch. He slows down on lap 2.
Well, Bobby Hamilton Jr. continues to show the way, barely over Greg Biffle and then Martin Truex Jr.
Continues to dodge pretty big bullets like Martin Truex Jr. in the 8 car.
Now, Matt, you kind of were talking about how these young guys are going at it. It's kind of refreshing, though, to see this type of young talent coming through the Busch Series and realizing that this is going to be some future coverage. I mean, really quick. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Martin Truex or Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch next year or the year after for sure moving up.
And maybe even Jason Leffler. I'm hearing possibly we might be seeing him in a car at the Brickyard later this year.
You know, the thing about Jason Leffler in a 00 car, they've just been quietly making some noise. They finished 4th at Lowe's. That's their best finish this year. He's qualified in the top 10 in 11 of the 13 events this year. And in the last 8 races, 6 top 10 finishes, and he's moved to 9th in points.
Takes the white flag, his first lap. On the pole.
How about that?
Get you some of that, guys.
8.54 seconds.
That's a good lap considering he was 11th quickest in practice, and he did win the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race here
A
1 year
very
ago.
special place for Jason Leffler. Scored his first truck win. Let's see if he can pick it up even more on his second lap.
We've seen some cars pick up on the second lap. Let's see if he can pick up. Slows down. I think he got all the goodie out that first lap. That's a good lap, though, for Jason.
Jason Leffler on the pole.
Now, that's a good sound to hear right there, guys. On the pole.
Booty told me, he goes, remember, I scored my first win with Scott Wimmer here. And they keep gaining on it, just like he did with Wimmer before Wimmer knocked down his first win.
2 good combinations there. A crew chief that's won here and a driver that knows where victory lane is, even though it's a different series. That confidence level is always great. There's his crew chief right there, Booty Barker.
And let's go down to Dick Berggren, who's with our fourth fastest qualifier.
Yeah, solid run for Martin Truex, but I was listening to you on the radio talking to your crew about the nose bouncing on the racetrack and basically picking the car up off the track. What's it like to drive when that sort of thing happens?
It's not very fun. I'll tell you, these guys have done a great job today. We unloaded with this new tire here, and we're not very good. So I'm real proud of Bono and the guys. They've done such a good job in practice, and that was a real good lap for us. We were still a little bit too tight, and I think if we could go back out one more time, we could get a little bit better. But I think everybody could. So good run for we got Ritz on our car this weekend, and hopefully have a good run for them tomorrow.
4th, not very good. That's the mark of the winner.
Another guy having a good run, Casey Kane. First lap, 10th fastest.
He was 17th quickest in practice. Finished in the top 10 in both Busch Series race here last year. Whoa! Boy,
Where'd that come
pick
from?
it up.
Big pickup.
22.87, second quickest for Casey.
Had a great run going last weekend and had a flat tire late in the race, had to pit.
And I think what happens, Matt and Jeff, on these guys that maybe pick up their second lap or slow down, I'm just speculating a little bit, is the car feels good the first lap, so you try to step it up the second lap. Sometimes you get by with it, sometimes you don't.
And let's go downstairs and find out more about Mini Me's lap. He's standing by with Dick Berggren.
I'll tell you what, Jason had a great run here. Won the pole in California. What did it feel like out there?
Yeah, it's I didn't quite hear all that, but it was a good lap for the Haas Automation Chevrolet. I hate to look underneath it and see what it was tearing off of it, but
Were you bouncing off the racetrack in that run?
Yeah, I was bouncing off pretty hard, and I think the track, temperature's gone down. Track's just got a little bit faster, but it's a good lap for us all. Hopefully it holds up.
You realize Casey Kane just about ran us over?
I realize that, but he's a good driver, so he just, it's precision. I'm not too worried about him.
Yeah, you're courageous. You didn't flinch. I did.
What's that?
I say you didn't flinch. I did.
Yeah, no, I know his ability, so I'm not worried.
Good run. Thank you.
3 open wheel drivers, Dick Berggren, Jason Leffler, and Casey Kane.
That's a pretty good group to be associated with.
Got that right.
And of course, what Jason was talking about, the racetrack has more grip. It's quicker now that it's cooled down, and where that speed comes is off the corner, so you're carrying more speed down in the corner. The car travels more, and you bottom out because he picked up 2/10 from what he ran in practice.
Gus Watson, who was 43rd fastest in practice. Only 27 out of 28 drivers. You know, Rusty Wallace talks about flames. He says, you know, I just love my Busch car. It's got a hot look on it, he says. And there it is. Brandon Parker. Stand out from the Hickory Motor Speedway, younger brother to another NASCAR Busch Series driver, now truck driver, running a Toyota.
Came up yesterday with Billy Parker and his dad, Hank Parker, you know, pretty famous fisherman. And Billy said that they had been testing a lot here lately. He came to Dover a few weeks ago for the first time, likes the racetrack. He had his owner down there in the garage area this morning working with him. And Rusty told me, he said, man, I believe in this young man. I know he's gotten off to a tough start, but I believe if we can ever get him kind of comfortable inside the car and realize what he needs with the race car, he will be a factor before the end of the season. So, I mean, it's great to see Rusty back in Billy because he hasn't had the start he wanted to. He's 18th quickest right now after his first lap, but they have definitely not quit on each other.
But how difficult for someone to try to improve, to get laps when you run a limited schedule?
Very difficult. And what Billy told me, he said, I made kind of a bonehead move to Charlotte, didn't get a chance to finish the race after crashing the car. He said, I've got to quit doing that. I need to finish these races so I can get that seat time, which is invaluable in race condition.
18th fastest.
And you can only imagine just the pressure driving for Rusty Wallace. Even though Rusty may not be putting pressure on you, I think you still feel it when he's your car owner.
And now let's go back downstairs to the open wheel posse, Dr. Dick Berger.
Yeah, that's us. Casey Kane now on the outside of the front row with a great run. We've been talking to people who are bouncing the chassis of their car off the racetrack to go fast. Did yours do that?
No, actually ours was pretty good. It didn't hit the ground though. It did earlier in practice, and you know, Paul Anders and this whole Great Clips team made some good changes there while we were over in cup practice, and should be a good race in the turn one tomorrow with left foot on the pole.
Paul Andrews, your crew chief. I was just watching him. He's got a smile that's about as big as all of Delaware right now. So happy.
And a guy who had a big smile on his face for pretty much the entire month of May, that's Ron Hornaday. They really jumped up in the championship standings from 13th to 7th, and really they found some momentum, guys, and so many people so desperately want. You can't buy it, you can't feel it, but boy, you can see it in the results.
And I talked to Butch Hilton, the crew chief, just this morning. And of course, Butch Hilton was over with the 21 car with Kevin Harvick and Johnny Sauter last year. Rick Vyers was the crew chief on this one. It's paid off again as that first lap. He's third quickest. But Butch said it has taken these first 12 or 13 races to kind of get acclimated with each other.
Ron told me it really feels like it all starts with qualifying. Their average starting spot during the month of May, 10th. And it's yielded an average finish of 7.3. So you can see qualifying pays off big.
Another good start here.
And he's currently third, Ron Hornaday in the Blue Deuce. NASCAR Busch Series qualifying continues at the Monster Mile. New this year, the DuPont Monster Bridge over in turn 3.
A little different type bridge, though, because inside of that bridge is 50 theater-style seats with audio access. They'll be able to listen to NASCAR on FX this weekend and major driver team communications. I would say that goes right to the top of the charts, maybe as the best seats in the house.
You pair that up with their beautiful hotel across the backstretch, and they pretty much have it all going on.
Have it all going on right there. And J.J. Yaley driving the MBNA, number 18, of course, MBNA right up the street here in Wilmington, and being a part of Joe Gibbs Racing. And J.J. picks it up on the second lap, moves up to 18th quickest.
I talked to J.J. this morning, and I asked you, I said, have you ever seen this racetrack before? He said, well, not till I tested. And he said, you know what? It's cool. I said, you've been hanging out with Jamie McMurray.
You learn a lot of different words hanging out with Jamie Mack.
Yeah, cool and cool and cool.
And there's the Casino Hotel. What a beautiful place. What a beautiful place. Well, let's go downstairs to Dick Berger.
Yeah, with Ron Hornaday, who had a beautiful run, but getting out of the car, it took you quite a while to catch your breath. Only 2 laps. Were you holding your breath that whole time?
Well, I tell you what, with Butch Hilton, all these guys in the AC Delta car, I mean, when they say it'll stick, it'll stick. And it's amazing to come here to Dover and just, I mean, I don't even think I breathed it through 1 and 2. And 3 and 4, I just barely lifted a little bit. I don't know where you can get much more, but spinning all the guys back in the shop, heck of a motor. And just, they just keep working harder and harder each week we come out. But I got to say to my daughter, get well, and Grandma, hope to see you guys pretty soon.
Thanks. Nice run today. Congratulations.
Ashton Lewis Jr. in the 46, 3 top 10 qualifying efforts in 2004, and coming off his season's best finish, Larry Mack.
Yeah, his only top 10 finish of 2004, finished 10th at Lowe's. This is the same car he ran there. And Jeff, I talked to a lot of Busch teams and Nextel Cup teams that ran well at Lowe's. A lot of them brought the same car. And as I think you'll remember, when you would run good at Lowe's, you could normally bring that same car here to Dover, and the setup would not vary that much from Lowe's.
It's funny you say that. That's very true. And it makes you wonder why, because these are two different race tracks.
They are.
Ashton Lewis knocks down the 14th fastest time as Busch Pole qualifying continues. Here at Dover, Jason Leffler and Casey Kane on the front row. The guy who made a lot of headlines last week, as you're watching Casey Kane, Robbie Gordon on the racetrack, did the double. The Indy 500, Coca-Cola 600, back in a Busch car though now.
And you know, they've missed 2 races. They skipped 2 races. They skipped the race at Lowe's Motor Speedway. They skipped the race at Nashville. He's still 11 in points, only 19 points out of the top 10. And let's see what he does on the second lap. Picks it up to 20th quickest. And I know they're going to race the next couple of races in Nashville and Kentucky, but possibly skip Milwaukee. They're looking at going back to the original schedule of 25 to 27 races in the Busch Series.
And another interesting point with the 55 car and Robbie Gordon, this weekend he's racing a Menards engine inside there now. Menards does engines for Andy Petrie, but it's the first time that Robbie's had one this season. He said it was a pretty good piece. I'm pretty excited about it.
Because this wasn't one of the scheduled 24 or 25 that he had cut a deal with RC. And what a great run also by Mark Green, 25th fastest. Dion Ciccarelli, 32nd fastest. We're looking at Jeff Fuller on the racetrack.
Teammate Joe Nemechek, 88 car. He was 40th quickest in practice at a 24:37.
Car bobbles just a little bit right there in the middle of the corner. Be interested to see how it affects Jeff, because he's a 36 car to try to take time, only 2 away from just the bumping process. So
jumps up to 30th.
And he beat 6 cars, which is what you need to beat to be in the top 38. So he will definitely race and won't have to use a provision.
Let's go to Dick.
I was watching Fuller this morning, Matty. He had quite a morning as he entered the 3rd turn. At one point, all of a sudden, there was smoke everywhere, and he just lost control of the car. What happened to him was an oil line had been dragging on the racetrack, spread oil over the rear tires, and he lost it. It was amazing that he didn't hit anything. His car owner, Joe Nemechek, came to him and said, "Boy, that was lucky." Fuller looked at Nemechek and said, "I don't think so. That was skill."
That sounds exactly like Jeff.
There is his team owner, Joe Nemechek, past winner here. He was like 3rd quickest in practice, so I'm sure he's looking for an opportunity, maybe get a chance to sit his car up on the front row.
Get that track record back. As Johnny Sauter in the 27 car on the racetrack.
Yeah, Joe will be next to the last car to go out and qualify. Now, Johnny was awfully quick in practice. He was 2nd quickest at a 22:89. If he picks it up just a little bit from that, he could be on the Busch pole.
4 top 10 starts in the last in 2004, but his last 6 races, best finish is 18th. I talked to Ron Horner today this morning because I'm trying to find Sauter. I said, why? He goes, I want my Bobcat back. You borrowed it. I want it back because I've got to do some yard work, but he won't return my calls.
22:99, 9th quickest, so quite a bit slower than what he ran in practice. You notice this is a Chevrolet Monte Carlo. This team and their teammate, the 37, David Green, progressively changing over from the Pontiacs to the Monte Carlos. They did tell me they would be, Newton Moore, the crew chief, told me they would run a Pontiac next week at Nashville.
And guys, we need to clarify.
Hey, he's on the post. Sorry.
There you go, baby. You're the man.
I don't blame you, Larry.
2/10 on that.
Forget about the Bobcat happens to be a tractor.
He can buy his own if he holds on. 22.807 seconds. The Leffler's 22.85.
But let's put it in perspective. Almost 158 miles per hour average at a 1-mile racetrack.
He's out of breath, guys.
That's what it's supposed to be when you qualify.
He's always flaring back after that little
Should
jump.
be out of here. Johnny Sauter, now the new track record holder. Will it stand? We'll find out. Back in Dover, Johnny Sauter climbs out of his race car, trying to hold on to his second career NASCAR Busch Series pole. Let's take a look at the top 10 so far. A pair of Chevys on the front row, followed by a Dodge and a Chevy. Casey Kane and Ron Hornaday, and Bobby Hamilton Jr. rounds out the top 5. Dick?
Sauter got out of his car and his hands were literally shaking. That is not fear, folks at home. That is just a matter of intensity. How close to wide open were you?
Not as close as you think. I mean, this Kleenex Chevrolet was really good. I mean, even off the truck this morning, this thing was awesome. And we've been struggling a little bit lately. And Newton, all the guys back at the shop, went back to doing some of the stuff that we were doing earlier in the year. And I mean, it seems to work. I don't know if that'll hold up for the pole or not, but nonetheless, it'll get us back in the top 5, and that's where we need to be right now.
I was standing with Ron Hornaday when you made that run. He turned to me and looked and he said, "How do you do that?" Matt?
Well, Dick, let's document Derek Cope, currently 30th. And Greg Sachs, former NASCAR Nextel Cup Series winner, 34th.
The guys with Greg Sachs, he told me this morning he is working on trying to get a ride in the Nextel division. So he feels like where they go, well, you may see him back as early as Chicagoland in a Nextel Cup car.
The guy who almost scored his second Busch Series title last year, David Green, on the racetrack in the 37 car.
Johnny Sauter's teammate, we were talking about him a while ago. He was 15th quickest in practice, man, sitting quietly 4th in the Busch Series points. See what he can do. He's on a pole by 1/100th of a second. He beats his teammate Johnny Sauter. It's catching.
It's catching. I was going to say to you, Larry, I wonder if he's got his teammates set up in the car. As we all know, David Green is probably one of the slyest guys when it comes to qualifying. You never know what he's got until it's time to make a run for the money.
Another guy who loves this racetrack told me this morning, it's just a big Bristol, and he runs very well at Bristol.
But when you could have 2 team cars come to a place like this, and of course we don't want to give them the front row yet because we still have Joe Nemechek, we have Kevin Harvick, we have Jason Keller still yet to qualify, and have them on the front row, at least for now, 1/100th of a second within each other. That's pretty phenomenal.
Now if it holds, that'll be his 22nd NASCAR Busch Series point. But the trend that we've been seeing, it's kind of like holding the Busch Series point standings lead. You hold it 1 week and then somebody else takes it.
It's like, I don't want it, you take it. I'll take it, you don't want it. Shane Neal in the 24 car, he was 22nd quickest in practice. He'll be competing in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race coming up later on this afternoon on speed. His best qualifying run this year, we talked about it earlier, was 3rd at Nazareth, substituting for Michael Waltrip while Michael was in Charlotte running the Nextel All-Star Challenge race.
And a top 10 finish here in September of 2002.
Jumps up to 15th. A good run right there by Shane in the 24 car. Now, these guys, since they brought Shane on board, have really kind of turned their program around. They're qualifying well. They're making a good effort each week. They do run this car with him driving it as far as racing is concerned. So they've got to be pretty pleased with having him driving for them right now.
Definitely stepped the program up. Slows down a little bit on lap 2, but that'll be a solid run. We need to document that Andy Ponstein, Gus Wasson, and Jerry Hill have been bumped out of the top 38.
Now, get lost in an action, is that what that meant?
I think there's something below that shield.
Oh, below that shield, okay. Looking at Kevin Harvick there.
A little bump on his teammate, David Green, in Johnny Sauter's car. And let's find out more about that and his great run. Here's Dick Berger.
Yeah, David Green came in here and parked immediately behind his teammate's car and ran into it. You not only bumped him on the racetrack, you bumped him here, and here he comes. I don't know if he's mad or not. No, it's okay.
He was the one that helped us on this deal.
How so?
Well, some gearing stuff, and if nothing else, a little psychological. Just, he was on pins and needles because he was so fast in practice, and we were at the top of the sheet last year, and that's the worst place to be. And so now we had something to shoot for, and he was the exact rabbit I needed. But we got a brand new Chevrolet Monte Carlo, and car never seen the racetrack till we got here this weekend. My guys did a great job. And they made me get up on the wheel, so I'm happy with that. No matter where that ends up, we got a great race car. Thanks to Timberwolf, all of our sponsors, and great day so far here at Dover.
You guys in the booth were talking about controlling your breath. When we first got here, David and I talked about him driving here at Dover. And what did you tell me about your breathing?
noticed I'm still trying to catch up. But I think you come here and we hold our breath subconsciously for a couple, 3 or 4 laps. It's just total concentration, really fast, and maybe the older you get, you have to hold your breath. I don't know what it is, but I'm a little bit out of breath. But Johnny and the whole Kleenex team has really helped our team strive this year to be a better team, and it's really cool that him and I, hopefully we can stay on the front row. It'd be really cool.
Joe Nemechek's on the racetrack, David. Let's see how he's going to do. Matty?
Former Dover winner Jason Keller knocks down the 8th fastest time as the former track record holder Joe Nemechek on the racetrack.
And guys, can you imagine? You break the track records, you beat your teammate, you kind of jump out of the pack and do all this, and then all of a sudden you look up and realize Joe Nemechek and Kevin Harvick are the last 2 guys that I've got to stand here and wait on. I mean, that can't be what you call
third fastest in practice. Now, you know he's probably going, talk to me quick, Nemechek's on the racetrack.
That's right.
See what he does here. Not too good a lap for Joe. 15th quickest.
I don't want to hear that, Larry. A minute ago, that's about where Johnny Sauter was, and he come out of nowhere, so I don't want to give it to him yet.
Yeah, Joe would actually have to pick up over 2.5 tenths, but just back to the 37 car quickly. Jason Ratcliffe, you heard David Green talk about brand new car untested. They just barely finished that car to bring it here. See what Joe does on lap 2. He picks it up, but only the 10th quickest.
22.928 seconds, which pretty much mirrors his fastest lap in practice. And taking a look at Joe's career here at Dover, 15 starts, 7 top 10s, and he won this event 1 year ago from the pole.
And he did break his old track record, but it's only good for 10th quickest.
Yeah. And then there was one, guys.
Yep. Evan Harvick.
Happy Harvick.
Back in the race car. Now he'll get out of the car for 3 races where they'll swap over to Clinton Boyer, and Boyer will drive it, and then Harvick will be back in the race car at Daytona.
They actually came up here and tested for a day with this car.
9th fastest in practice.
Felt like anything they could learn for the Busch car would also help the Nextel Cup car.
I noticed Clint Boyer on top of the truck, as you usually find him, watching Kevin drive this 21 car and being a part of a lot of the decisions that are being made here. As Kevin gets down the first lap, he's 13th quickest, so David Green has got to be breathing just a little bit easier, because I don't think that Kevin can pick up quite that much, but
he'd have to pick up 2 tenths just like Johnny Sauter did.
It'll be close.
Slows down quite a bit, actually.
So his lap of record will be 22.982 seconds, 13th quick. Kyle Busch, Mike Bliss, and David Sturmey right behind Harvick from 13th to 16th.
He was the one that motivated me.
And there they are, the fast guys.
Teammates.
David Green and Johnny Sauter currently on the front row. New track records. Back in Dover, and new track record by David Green, his first pole since Bristol back in March, alongside his teammate Johnny Sauter, his best Busch Series start in 2004. Let's go downstairs and talk to the new track record holder, and in the middle of those 2 teammates, Dick Bergley.
Well, actually, right in the middle of the 2 teammates is Clarence Brewer, and he owns both of these cars. Clarence, you got one car on the pole driven by Green, the other car on the outside of the front row driven by Sauter. Who's supposed to beat who into the first turn?
Well, actually, I hope they each give some room to the other, because I want to finish the race. And they know that. They know that.
What's going to happen going into that first turn, Johnny?
I'll tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to outrun them getting into turn 1, and you know, the outside line's good run, get a good run off of turn 2, and we'll be leading the first lap, promise you.
That okay by you? Going to let him lead the first lap, David?
He knows I'm a nice guy, but we'll see what happens on Saturday. But it's all a great team effort. We got a brand new Chevrolet Monte Carlo here, and my guys did a great job. Never seen the racetrack till this morning, and Johnny was the inspiration that really helped me today, because when they told me he was on the pole, I said my prayer, and I said I got to dig deep. But my guys gave good adjustments, and Newt and Jason all working well together. So it's a great team effort here by Team Bruco.
Now, no doubt tomorrow, given that you both have very fast cars, you are going to be running side by side, maybe nose to tail. Do you give him a little bit more room than you might give somebody else, or are you tougher on him?
I think so. I mean, Dover's has been
Wait, but you think so what?
No, it's time to be serious, man. I got a good sponsor, Kleenex, and we too have a new Chevrolet here, Monte Carlo, and Dover's always been a racetrack that's two-groove, and it's plenty of racing room. Obviously, the top groove's going to come in, and looking forward to tomorrow. I'm going to race David just as hard as I race anybody else, so I promise you that.
How hard will you run tomorrow, David?
The usual David Green style. Be there at the end and, 50 to go. Before that, people probably won't even know we're around, but they will tomorrow because we're going to start up front and hang there all day. But got to take care of my equipment. That's what puts us where we are in the championship battle. And big picture is the big picture, and the championship's ours if we can keep our I's dotted and our T's crossed.
Now, the points are the same in NASCAR's Busch Series as they used to be in the old Winston Cup Series. So, what is your strategy like as you go through the year? Do you try to win a lot of races, or do you just have to try to conserve and make sure you finish every one?
Well, this year with Martin Truex and Kyle Busch really turning the heat up in the series, we and our team's right on track. We've yet to get into victory lane, but each one of our finishes have been better. So my team's better, and we just have to keep doing the same thing. Nothing is paid out to the checker flag drop, so that's the big picture and every race win as well. So.
And Ron Hornaday just stopped by to congratulate the entire front row. Well, we have found out about what he has learned from you. This guy is the old master, been around about forever. What has David Green taught you about racing in this series?
I'll tell you what, David's at the top of the list as far as being elite drivers in the Busch Series, and David's helped me a lot this year qualifying. I mean, there was Texas, we were 22nd. He was, I think, the fastest car there, and I sat down with him. He told me how to get around there, and David's helped me immensely, obviously, and today I just got out snookered by the old Fox, I guess, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. It's a long race.
David's tapping me in the back. What is it?
Well, see, I've always been the laid-back guy, but when Johnny came on board, I found out now I got to push the button probably 100 laps quicker than I used to, so he keeps me up on top of the wheel.
Oh, boy, Clarence, you got two button pushers going for you now. Good luck tomorrow. Gee, I hope you have at least one car left.
I hope so, but, we have the tortoise and we have the rabbit. That's how I describe these guys. And, just so they're both at the finish line at the end, I'll be happy.
Good luck to all three of you tomorrow. Thank you.
They both certainly pushed the button in qualifying. David Green, Johnny Sauter on the front row.
Larry, I don't know about you, but I got to comment on this. I'd be a little bit nervous if I was Johnny Sauter's crew chief right now, thinking, I know he wants to lead that first lap, but I'm also at the same time impressed that David Green realizes I want to lead the last lap.
I believe I'd be more nervous if I was Clarence Brewer. But 12 cars broke the track record here that was previously held by Joe Nemechek. Saw
Great
Kyle
run
Busch.
by Justin Labonte.
Yeah, good run by Justin. Kyle Busch, our points leader, row 7.
And Jimmy McMurray back in the one car inside row 12.
Row 14, Hermie Sadler, good qualifying run by him, as well as rookie Billy Parker.
Kevin LePage was the last car to get in on time, starting with the 10-car Gus Watson, Andy Ponstein, the 39. That starts provisional land with Jerry Hill, Brad Teague, and Greg Sachs getting the final provisional.
And let's go back downstairs to Dick Bergen, who's caught up with Kevin Harvick, who will start 13th tomorrow.
I just got to look at my notes. You've got so many top fives. We got 8 starts, 6 top fives, finished 4th at Daytona, 3rd at Rockingham, Richmond, and Lowe's, 2nd at Bristol, 1 Vegas. But tomorrow, you start 13th on a very rough racetrack. How will you drive in order to get to the front?
Well, I think the main thing is, the tires fall off so much here that you just have to make your car work on a long run, and that's what we worked a lot in practice. Just kind of went a little bit of the wrong direction there in qualifying, and the car was just really, really tight. But all in all, the Risa Chevrolet, we came up here and tested for a day and just really worked on race runs and did everything we could to keep it from getting tight off the corner.
As the last man to go out and take time today, how different was the racetrack when you timed from when you practiced, before the Cup cars had been out there and a lot of laps had been run?
Our car was quite a bit tighter, like I say, than we were this morning. We were just a little bit free when we ended practice this morning and wound up being really, really tight come qualifying time. So it'll be like I tell these guys, it'll be all good and everything will be fine, and we'll have good pit stops and a good race.
Yeah, they're all set. They got Kevin Harvick behind the wheel. That's always an added bonus. Matty?
Well, Dick, when you look at Larry Mack and Jeff, when you look at David Green coming off of a week at Charlotte that they had some mechanical issues, and to lose a spot in the points, they realized, I talked to David this morning, he said he cannot let those young guys get away because they're starting to slowly inch out. Kind of what Matt Kenseth did last year in the Nextel Cup Series. Inched out to a big lead. Then week after week, they just kept building. And when they had trouble, they couldn't bounce back.
Well, I know everybody is ready to concede pretty much that it's a Kyle Busch, Martin Truex battle, but I guarantee you, even when you talk to David Green's crew, they are not ready to concede here only 1/3 through the season. And when I look at the lineup, guys, you know, normally when we look at the Bushwhackers, they kind of are grouped together, but I'm seeing a lot at the front: Johnny Sauter, Casey Kane, Greg Biffle. Then you look in the middle of the field, you've got Matt Kenseth, Jamie McMurray, and you got Michael Waltrip, Mike Wallace, Robbie Gordon kind of at the tail end of the field.
Surprised. I'm very surprised about that, Larry. You pointed it out very eloquently, because there's 7 basically Busch regulars at the head of the pack right now. You don't normally see that, especially when you're talking about going and breaking track records like these guys have done.
The top 2 in points, Martin Truex, he will roll off 9th, and Kyle Busch will roll off 14th tomorrow afternoon in the MBNA 200 here at Dover. So how tough when you look at this, Larry Mack? Now, Michael Waltrip starts deep in the field, all the way back in 33rd. Now, how does that change your strategy for tomorrow?
Well, what they need to do, Jerry Baxter and that group, this is somewhat of a short race. It's only 200 miles, 200 laps. So what you've got to do is you've got to try to maybe figure out how to get off sequence on pit stops in the beginning, get that track position, and try to be with these guys the last 100 laps. This race goes by in a hurry, and it's also known kind of in the middle portion of the race to have a long green flag run.
And guys, I think when we keep talking about points versus racing for the win, Michael Waltrip and Jerry Baxter, I believe this group, they're still trying to get to victory lane and be competitive. I know he won a race early on, but it was kind of like a gift to them. They want to get back up front and lead laps like he did a year ago, while some of these guys like a David Green, Johnny Sauter, and especially Kyle Busch, they want to have solid runs and keep putting points on the board. So there'll be 2 different types of strategies going on here tomorrow. Kevin Harvick, he'll be charging from the back. Robbie Gordon, he'll be charging for a win. They're looking for wins. They're not worried about points right now. So we're going to see 2 totally different approaches, I think, as far as this race tomorrow.
Well, let's catch up more from Jason Keller. He's with Dick Berggren.
Yeah, and he's already done some winning. Tell me what has gone on here this weekend for you at Dover.
I can't say much about my winning at a casino, because then my wife will want her cut when I get home. But I can say it's been a pretty good weekend. The Miller High Life Ford actually ran pretty good in qualifying, too. So pretty happy with it. Got things going great, so I hope it continues.
Yeah, and his team has done incredibly well on the short tracks, and we are at a short track. Watch car number 22 on Saturday afternoon.
Now, guys, if you're Justin Labonte, what do you do tonight? Do you go talk to Uncle Bobby and your dad and say, hey, some advice for tomorrow?
I'm sure he will, and I think they'll be giving it to him ahead of time anyway. But his mission statement for tomorrow is not to get caught up in somebody else's problem and run the entire race. If he can do that, then he's going to gain some valuable seat time.
Well, our full weekend of racing action continues on Speed. Later today, Bud Pole qualifying for the NASCAR Nextel Cup cars. The MBNA America 200 Truck Series race live from Dover. Then tomorrow, the MBNA America 200 Busch Series race, followed by NASCAR Nextel Cup Series final practice. Then Sunday, our action begins at 12:30 with the MBNA America 400, followed by Speed News and Victory Lane.
That's action with a capital A, trust me.
I think it's capitals all the way across. Well, David Green scored a track record, his first pole here at Dover. He's going to try for a win tomorrow.